So I got a comment on my channel. Joshua Smith asked, "Can you make a series on the tabs in EV3 and what you do with each block?" So today I'm going to do the first one in the series. I'm going to do the first tab, the Action tab. So the blocks in this tab, I like to explain it as, so your brick is the brain, and the blocks in this tab are what let you manipulate the outside world. So we have the medium motor block. Whoops. The medium motor block. What this block does is it spins the medium motor. You can control the port with this. This symbol at the top means you can wire the port. I'll get to that later in a different video. This right here is the power, and this is the rotations. And there's break it end, true or false. But there's this tab over to the side. Most blocks have this tab on the left side. This one's choices are off, turns it completely off. On, turns it on for forever. On for seconds, changes this bit here from rotations to seconds. On for degrees, changes this bit here from rotations to degrees. And on for rotations, which is what it's on. Then we have the large motor, which is exactly the same, except instead of running a medium motor, it runs a large motor. Then we come into the move steering block. This block lets us do is it will look very similar, but it lets us choose two ports, and these are for our drive motors. It has the same choices over on the left side, but it adds this extra input. What this input is the steering input. So let's say you wanted to gradually drift over to the left. -15. Now as you're driving, you'll gradually drift to the left. You want to make sure that the port on the left side and the port on the right side, the one on the left side matches up with your left one, and the one on your right side is what your right motor is plugged into. Then the next one in the row is Move Tank. What Move Tank lets you do is instead of the steering, it has the same ones on this choice, but instead of the steering choice, like if we drag this one up, this bit becomes these two. And instead of letting an algorithm decide how much power you want to go to each wheel, you get to tell it. I want on my left wheel I want 50, and on my right wheel I want 50. That'll drive us straight. We again want to make sure that the port on the left matches up with the port our left motor's in, and the port on the right matches up with the port our right motor's in. Then the next block in the row is the first one that's not a motor block. This is the display block. This lets us print stuff to the screen. This is very useful for debugging. You're like, why did my robot just do that? You can print something to the screen. So right here, right now we're in, if we click over here, we can choose to display text, shapes, reset screen, or image. Right now, the default is the image screen. On the image screen, you choose a file, and there's bajillions of them. Bomb, there's color sensor, EV3 icon, there's backwards, accept, decline. There's bajillions, everything you could possibly want. They have in the Lego images. Then there's text, which lets you place it, decide where the starting point of the text is by pixel, or starting bit by grid. They look very similar. For text, you can choose the font size, whether it's black writing on white or white writing on black, and whether you clear the screen before you write it. Up here is where you can say what you want. So if I was to say, the typical starting print to the display, hello world. Now something very cool we can do that not many people know about is any selection in here, we can click this button over on the top left, and it will give us a display preview of what it'll look like. So this is what it'll look like. If we change some of these variables, look, it's smaller. We can slide it down. We can slide it over. We can increase the size. We can change it from black on white to white on black. Then the next, we've got text, pixels in the grid. We've got shapes. We can add lines, circles, rectangles, and points. So if we were to do a line, we give the starting X, the starting Y, the starting X, and the starting Y. This is in pixels. So if we were to display this, that's that line. But if we were to change the starting X to 2, and the starting Y to 127, and this to this, and this to that, then we get a nice other diagonal line. And we can do the same thing, black on white, white on black, and clear screen or not. And it's true of all the shapes. Circle has the radius and where the middle point is, and whether you fill it or not, and whether it's white on black or black on white, and clearing screen. Rectangle has the same choices, height, width, starting pixel, fill or not. And point is just you choose a point in space. And that displays it. We actually need to change that to that if we want to see it. Now there's a tiny point somewhere in there. I can't see it, but that's because I have terrible eyes. This next one is the sound block. The sound block starts out on play file. There's also stop, which stops any sounds that it's making. Play tone, which plays a tone that you designate from this Hertz bit. And a note, which plays a note that you designate. All of the play file, play tone, and play note all have volume and play type. The play tone and play note also have a duration. So the volume is kind of obvious. That's the volume. The play type, there's 3 different types. There's wait for completion, where it makes the sound and it doesn't do anything after it. So let's say we had this motor block. It would make the sound and then it would wait until the sound was over to make this. The next one is play once, which it would make the sound while it started to spin this. And the last one is repeat, where it would make the sound while it was doing this, and while it was doing that, and while it was doing that. It would keep playing it until the program ended, or we made a stop, like so. The next block in the low is the brick status light. What we can do here is we can turn it on, off, and reset. Reset brings it back to what it looks like. So the brick status lights are the buttons on the EV3, the lights behind them. This is obviously not a choice for the NXT because there's no lights behind those buttons. But on the EV3, you can change what the light is. Normally, when you run a program, it flashes green, I think. And so when you reset, it brings it back to what it normally is. When you turn it off, it turns off the lights. Now they're completely dark. When you turn it on, you can designate a color, green, orange, or red, and whether it should pulse or not. So you can say, okay, I want it to, at this point in the program, pulse yellow. And that's all of the ones in the Action tab.